Hey y'all, welcome back. This is the first time I've been on a podcast in about a month.
Yeah, shout out to Merritt's month sabbatical. We appreciate you.
Mainly because
Crush
of this kid, this little guy.
that
So
is very true.
if you hear yelling and screaming or crying, it's Kevin. But also him. Um, but tonight we actually bring back one of our favorite, college friends and sadly sport management major with us, Mr. John Boomtown Terry himself. John, say hello.
Hello, haven't heard that in a while. The Boomtown thing has kind of left me. But yeah, good to be here as someone who was once doing his own podcast and struggled to keep it going. I was just letting you guys know before we started here. Props to you guys because there is a lot of work and you guys have built something cool here. So also you just said like about the crying. Your kid hasn't cried yet. It's kind of incredible.
He was legitimately crying for the past 25 minutes before we got up here to do this.
Got it. So just
And
got the crying out of the way.
yeah, but I'm also thinking he's just overtired and we try to get him down around 8:30.
Oh.
And my wife's working late today, so that's great. I have to deal with him at the same time. So it'll be fun. Kevin, is your camera finally working, or are we just going to look at a pixelated version of yourself?
No, it is working because so I have
Yeah,
I knew Merritt was gonna freak out, but for my sports apparel today, I want to share my lucha mask that I got when I was at WrestleCon. Uh, I know John Terry from Georgia, so I had to wear a wrestler that wrestled in for WCW based in ATL, Georgia. My guy, the Juice, Juventud Guerrero. I got this mask from this guy who runs a store called the Lucha Libre Superstore. Him, his wife, and their little 5-year-old son. They're super cool, and we talked to them for like 20 minutes, and they had all these lucha masks. And like I've always wanted a lucha mask, so I figured I would go ahead and get one. So Merritt told me that I need to wear it on the podcast, so here I am. And I didn't know Merritt was gonna have such a reaction, sir.
I I honestly I don't even know what to say.
I might keep it on the entire time, but
It's kind of scary.
really, no, it's not. That's why I'm not gonna lie. I kind of didn't want to put the camera on earlier because I didn't want Luca to freak out. But he looks like he's having a great time looking at me.
I think
I was
So
about to say, I think we might have our first cries of
yeah,
the
he's also
no,
reaching for my keyboard to try to hit every button, and I'm like,
I
might
love it.
unplug the keyboard and just use the stuff up on the mouse.
Yes, and then I also wore for jersey wise. I
There you go.
wore my LeBron jersey that Andrew got me, in which the gift that came from Christmas finally arrived. So
Ron, man.
yes,
Just
we're
root for
out
the-
here.
Are you guys soccer fans at all?
Oh, I am.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
I do
what
my
do you?
best.
So I'm wearing a Ballard FC jersey. Do you know what Ballard FC is?
That's the
There's no way you get this.
isn't no, that's not JJ Watt's the one that JJ Watt's part
No.
ownership of.
That's Burnley.
Yeah.
Burnley.
So what's
John, I don't
Ballard?
know. What is
Ballard
this one?
FC is a USL League Two team.
Okay.
It's in
Oh,
Ballard, Seattle. It's like a neighborhood in Seattle. And they started after, like, right after we moved from Seattle. And one day I was drinking on my porch in Chicago a lot, and they released their jerseys, which were like awesome. And I love the idea of like, the small, like, the Wrexhams and the Sunderlands, and right.
Yeah.
So I like drunkenly bought this jersey. But this team, like Ballard was where we lived. Like that was a little neighborhood. Like, I mean,
Okay,
if
that's
we'd
even
still been
better.
in Seattle, we would have gone. And the logo is a sunset, and this is the Ballard Bridge. Anyways,
I
tonight,
love that.
yeah. So they it's like a amateur kind of like semi-pro team. Like they have some professionals, they have some amateurs. They won USL League Two last year. They qualified for the US Open Cup and lost in the first round, which is a bummer. But anyways, so
That's still though that's something we would never have known because I like soccer, but I'm not that far in depth
and
like that.
and and not only are they a great team, their jersey sponsor is this place called Reuben's Brews, which was the first brewery I went to when I was in Seattle. It was a small little brewery. It ended up turning into one of my favorite breweries in Seattle. Every time we go back, we go to Reuben's. And in the process of moving down to Atlanta, and coincidentally, I'm sitting next to a huge Reuben's Brews thing. So
Love that.
it's full circle, right? Like, they're like a raucous environment. They get thousands of people every night to this like it's just incredible. But
That's
anyway.
pretty dang cool.
Wait, so sorry, not to like derail this thing. I know you guys are the host and I'm asking you questions now, but what soccer teams what soccer do you follow?
I follow mainly like the international side of things. I'm trying to get more into the Premier League and paying attention to that. But definitely,
Like you follow like Team USA?
yeah, I follow Team
Or
USA, and then of course I went to the World. Oh, I was in France and Spain in '06 when it was in Germany.
okay.
And France was doing really well, so I became a France fan. Um, Notably, they haven't been great the past few years, but and then all of a sudden Mbappe came along and they've done great.
Hell of
So
a World Cup final, huh? I
oh
mean, what
yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah.
holy cow. I like wasn't even my wife who like doesn't like love sports was like yelling at the TV. That was incredible. Okay, so international soccer. So do you watch the Premier League? Do you like
I can't get up early enough. Well, I am up early
you have a
enough to
kid?
watch
What do you
it,
mean you
but
can't get up early enough?
I say you don't get up early enough, but I go to the gym at 4 a.m.
That's
Me too.
that's okay. Well, that's good. You go to how long do you stay at the gym for?
2 hours.
Okay, so here's the thing. Do you do that on a Saturday and a Sunday?
Typically not. No,
Okay, so well that doesn't matter because we're talking Saturdays and Sundays. What time does the kid wake up here?
6, 7 o'clock in
Okay,
the morning.
that's perfect. And you're in the East Coast, right? You're still in the
Yeah,
Northeast? Dude, kid wakes up at 7, you got soccer on. That's the best part about European soccer is what else are you watching at 7 o'clock in the morning other than like NFL live reruns,
That's a
right?
fact.
that's
You
true.
have Premier League, which is on NBC and Peacock. You also, if you have ESPN Plus, you can watch the Championship, you can watch League One, you can watch League Two. It's literally the best sport made for parents with young children.
You know what? We're going to watch more soccer now.
There we go.
The one team
Luca's gonna be a soccer guy now.
I have been
love it.
watching more of is mainly because they created their show and it's owned by two huge celebrities, is Wrexham.
Mhm.
Kevin, I don't know if you've watched the show yet with about Wrexham soccer, but you should. It's on Hulu.
Yeah, I know you told me about it. I gotta definitely
Wrexham's
tune in.
incredible. That's an amazing show.
I can't believe
Uh,
they're what, League One now?
they just got promoted from League Two to League One, so they will be
Yep.
in League One next year. And then 2 years ago, they were in the National League.
Which
Dude,
is
did
cool.
you watch Sunderland Till I Die?
I've heard about it.
Okay, so
I don't know if I've
Sunderland
watched it.
is a. I hope you have some soccer fans who are listening, or we'll move on soon. But
We have
Sunderland, so
we have
exciting.
plenty of fans.
This
So
is so exciting. So
spread the love.
Sunderland was a Premier League team back in the day, and they got relegated to the championship, right? Like we know what promotion and relegation is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they got relegated. Then Netflix did a documentary on them. It was called Sunderland Till I Die. They actually did 3 of them. The first 2 seasons were the best. And it was supposed to be about them getting basically re-promoted to the Premier League, right? Well, they didn't get, I mean, spoiler alert here. They didn't get promoted. They got relegated again.
Oh, Jesus.
And so there was this behind the scenes documentary of basically, and they went through multiple coaches and it was this whole thing. And it was about the community, just as kind of like the Welcome to Wrexham merit, but it was about the community. And Sunderland is like basically this the city on the water, and it's been devastated by industry, right? Because it was like shipping and it's like financially, it's not economically not doing well. And so then they follow them another year, right? And it's an amazing documentary. I thought prior to the Formula One documentary series, I thought Sunderland Till I Die was one of the best ever documentaries I've ever watched. Welcome to Wrexham is like different because it has like the Ryan and stuff like the comedic part of it, which is fun. It makes it like a little bit more exciting and not as serious. But I would strongly suggest watching. But if that doesn't get you hooked,
I will.
And then you got to pick a Premier League team, man. Like you gotta decide who you're
my Premier League team is Arsenal or Everton because
you can't pick 2.
All right, so if I'm going to pick one, I'm going to pick Arsenal mainly because I was a Thierry Henry fan.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I hate Arsenal, but that's fair.
That's fine.
Kevin, what about you? What?
So I'm not gonna lie, I'm not as versed to soccer as my co-host here. I am also one of those that follow the national team, especially this past, women's. Shout out to the Philippines for making it for the first time ever. So I've been following that. I have been following for a little bit the NWSL because the
Okay.
Gotham FC,
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
won
Yep.
the championship this year. And also I wanted to start following because I watched was it on HBO Max? The Angel City FC
Yeah, that
documentary
was
they
a good
had there.
documentary too, actually. That
That was
was
a
cool.
great documentary. So I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I try to show my support for women's soccer. So that one I've been following that one a little bit, and especially since Gotham FC won, I want to try and make it out
Worst to
there to
first
Harrison.
too. Gotham FC was the worst team in the league, and then they turned it around and won the
I
championship.
They
know,
fired their
unreal.
coach. They fired the coach and had put the interim in, and she went on and won 15 in a row or something.
Yeah, she went on a tear, and yeah, I'm excited because they got a lot of brand new players this year. Some from the national team.
Oh, they got stacked.
They
this
stacked
Reloaded.
year.
them,
They
Yeah.
they
stacked
reloaded.
up. You're thinking Las Vegas Aces of the NWSL.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's
I'm still going to put that out in San Diego. That team out there is still loaded.
the wave.
Yeah.
Also a very nice stadium out there. Gotham FC is nice. Red Bull Arena is nice, but
Maybe they should move to the new arena that New York is going to build by the end of
looks pretty sweet.
2027.
Looks pretty sweet, huh?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun to have two stadiums in New York. Like I think like right now it's like you have there's no grass like other than Red Bull, right? There's no other grass stadium in New York City. You have
Yeah.
Hartford is the closest one.
Yeah,
And so it's gonna be cool to have another stadium there for sure.
I agree.
Yes, definitely. I love that one. Hold on, 2 seconds. Gotta get this.
Oh,
out.
he's taking
Oh
it
yeah,
off.
it's off.
He can
It's
breathe
done.
again.
How you feeling now, Kev?
Hope John Terry remembers what I look like.
I do.
But
I follow you on social media, man.
yes. Well, yeah. I mean, man, this thing was really hot. So I have another one, and it was not nearly as hot as the one I was wearing. And I will surprise Merritt randomly whenever I wear that one. But
Oh
yeah,
God,
that
help me.
feels good to not have that on my face now.
All right. Well, let's jump into the weekly sports update. Last night was the WNBA draft. Most anticlimactic number one pick ever. We all knew what that was coming, but still amazing time watching part of it. Kevin, did you know a former West Virginia player got drafted?
I didn't know who.
Hold on. Esmery Martinez. She played at Arizona, but she left West Virginia, went to Arizona. She's now a part of the Liberty.
Oh, damn. I didn't know that she was, because she transferred to Arizona, right? For her last year.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah,
shout out to Mark for giving me that tidbit of information. I did not know that.
I didn't know, by the way, like you're probably just going through things. I didn't realize how tough it was for players to break into the WNBA until
Oh my
like,
God.
reading all these stories. I didn't realize there were only 12 teams. One, I thought we'd gotten bigger by now. But like players who get drafted in the first round, like don't even make rosters.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like they don't have the money to house more players.
Then again, like you go play in Europe and you're probably making more money, but like it's crazy. I didn't realize that. Also, I saw a tweet last night that was like, how funny would it be if the LA Fever had traded their second and fourth pick to Indianapolis or whatever, and the Indiana Fever sells like all these tickets because everyone thinks Caitlin Clark is going to do it, and then the LA Fever end up with Caitlin Clark.
Oh,
that would be
gosh.
unreal. But the Sparks did get a real dang good player in Brink, so they're good there.
Yeah, the whole class is pretty crazy. So like little tidbits I saw last night, like the little draft they had in New York completely sold out yesterday.
It wasn't
Indiana. Well, I know, but from what like previous WNBA drafts have been, it was by far the most that I've ever attended.
They used to just do it at ESPN headquarters. They would just have them come to ESPN, and they would sit in a boardroom basically, be like, "Oh, you're drafted."
Yeah, and then they also in the Fever they had like a free draft party in which they filled the whole arena of 17,000 people came to it. Like that's out of control. I mean, this Caitlin Clark phenomenon is real. Fanatics sold pretty much
But you
every
know
one
what's
of her
crazy
jerseys.
though about the
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark thing is
Uh-huh.
like I don't think she's that much better than Kelsey Plum. And I don't think she's that much better than Diana Taurasi. And I don't think she's that much better than Maya Moore. Like women's basketball maybe at a better play style, specifically college basketball.
Oh
But
yeah.
like, I don't, it just kind of blows my mind that like people are latching on to her. And it's not like she's in a big TV market. She goes to Iowa,
I know. That's the most interesting thing that
like Big Ten country. Like of
yeah.
all of the conferences to give a, do you, I don't know, do you guys cuss on this
Oh,
podcast?
say whatever you want,
Okay.
John.
Yeah.
Of all of these of all these conference like cities to give a shit about women's basketball, the Big Ten, like there's like the fewest major media markets, the least number of metropolitan areas. Like it's crazy to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. I never understood. I mean, I get it. Her game is good, and we're in the era of basketball where it's like shooting from 40 is like the norm. But no, I tend to agree with you on that one, John. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
excited for the first matchup of her and Diana Taurasi and what's gonna happen.
or Sabrina.
Yeah, I forgot about her.
Yeah,
Like, I
you
wonder
can't
if Sabrina or Kelsey Plum went to a school on the East Coast, if this would have happened 3 years ago, right? Like,
Well, Kelsey went to Washington and she had the scoring record,
which I
and
saw, by the way, was there in person, and it
that's
was
pretty cool.
one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. I got yelled at for standing up too much by this old dude sitting behind me, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like she's about to break the record. You know, in that game, she only had like 20 points at halftime. It was senior night. She needed, I think, like 57 to break the record. Went off. Like anyway, in the background, sitting right behind the basket, when you see that when you watch the highlights, you can see me like jumping up and down. Like,
Oh man, I'm now gonna go find the
but like
highlights.
that's my
I gotta
point
go
though, right?
find that.
Like
I gotta find that highlight.
but that's my point, right? Is she did this already and she was taking 40, like she was doing NBA threes and no one cared. I don't know.
We
It's
must
And
be.
just
then she
We're in
goes
a
and plays
different
in Las
time.
Vegas. It just blows my mind. It blows my mind like how like everything is the same. She went to the Final Four. Like every single thing about Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Plum are similar,
yeah,
except the fact that one was on the West Coast. I
yeah, I
don't know.
could agree with that. And it's kind of funny because up until this year, I don't think any of us could technically say we knew any women's basketball player or college player unless they were at UConn,
Or
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Um, Sometimes you'd hear like Stanford, they always had a great program, something like that. But that was it. And now all of a sudden, it was true. They talked about it on TNT during March Madness. I couldn't tell you any male basketball player besides some of the UNC guys and maybe a Duke player here and there. I could have named you a bunch of women's basketball players,
That's a
though.
good point. That's a good point.
It's I watched more women's basketball than I did men's basketball this year.
Yeah, this year I watched a lot more women's basketball because I don't know, maybe I just thought the game was more interesting, but there was more compelling because we had people to latch onto. Like you're talking, you had all your LSU girls, all those girls from South Carolina, in which they're returning like 80% of that whole entire team. You know, Paige is coming back next year for UConn. Like it's gonna be women's basketball is up and up. Shout out to women's sports out here because
Yep.
it's about damn time.
No, I agree. But we could go on and on about that forever. But let's talk about NBA real quick. The
Wait,
playoffs
time
are
out. Before you go
Wow.
on, can we just talk about how all of a sudden Angel Reese and Camille Cardosa from South Carolina are gonna be the next Tim Duncan and David Robinson?
And they're almost the exact same height.
Yeah,
I
and
didn't know
I did
Angel
not
Reese
expect
is
them to be on the same
6'3".
team. And Cardoso is 6'7".
Like, I didn't think Angel Reese was that tall. I'm 6'4". I didn't think she was that tall. But apparently she is.
But yeah,
So,
that's just gonna be. I did not expect that a trade happened because nobody said anything until like draft day, and then they ended up on the same team, which is really really scary. So shout out to the Chicago Sky.
yeah. Well, we do hope for one West Virginia player to make the Sky because she did get brought over for a roster spot or training camp spot. So we'll see if she can make it.
And another person from that went to Dallas, Katrina Pardee, she has a training camp deal with the Dallas Wings. So shout out to our W alum out here.
All right, let's see what they do. All right, NBA playoffs. They're set. Playing games start tomorrow night or whenever this podcast gets out. They've already been done and whatever. But we'll see. The Bucks will not have Giannis either.
What happened to him? I'm like, I don't follow the NBA. What happened to Giannis?
Was it last week? They played the Celtics and he non-contact injury started running up the court and he just fell. They did the test, nothing wrong, but it looks like a strain to his MCL and ACL. So
that sounds
lucked
significant.
out. But he lucked out. He didn't tear it, which is good. But now
the owner of the Bucks, Wes Edens, is one of the co-owners of Aston Villa.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Look at John Terry throwing out soccer knowledge.
Which is my team. That's the only reason I know that.
Okay.
I love the fun facts, John. Incredible. But yeah, so did you even, I love how you just talked about, oh yeah, NBA playoffs are start. Cool. You didn't even glance over the part about how Kevin's New York Knicks are now the 2nd seed in the East.
Who gives a shit? They're still gonna lose.
Hey, Luca, don't listen to your dad. He just cursed. So, but still.
He's heard me say so much worse
Knicks,
already.
I feel like that's pretty significant. Like the Knicks have like struggled for a really, really long time.
It is significant.
It is huge.
I remember when what's the guy on my sister's boyfriend's like a huge Knicks fan. So on Christmas Day this year we watched the Knicks. The point guard guy.
Brunson?
Yeah, dude's crazy. Won me some money too. Because he went off on Christmas Day. But like, dude, they're for real this year.
They are. They're a very good team, and they're better without Randall.
Everything is clicking. They have all the right players. People are getting healthy. The only person that's not healthy is Randall with his shoulder. But this is a true Tom Thibodeau team. It's all about hustle. It's about working hard. It's about defense. And those guys can hit their shots. You got shout out to Deuce McBride, W alum on that team. You just got a lot of guys that work hard and they're just playing together as a team, which is something us Knicks fans have been dying since the early 90s. So I'm excited. I've already said it on this podcast already, and I'll say it again because Merritt's here. If my Knicks get to the Eastern Conference Finals and take the Celtics to 6 or 7 games, that is a successful season for us. So we shall see what happens.
Will you say it's successful, or will you still be upset?
I'm saying it's successful as of April 16th at 7:40 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see whenever that time comes. I might start crying. I might need to take a couple weeks off after their podcast if they lose horribly. But I just, there have been just so many years of suffering as a Knicks fan that it's just really nice to see that they're doing well. And it's kind of interesting because not only we're 2024, so I don't know how am I thinking of 2010 to that about 30 years ago, you had the Rangers and the Knicks that made it to the finals in their respective sports.
It's the first time that they've made it to the playoffs the same time frame again, too. They're both like a higher seed in their
they both won like 50 games each.
50 plus games. Both are in the playoffs. Both have a chance. But we'll see. Other news, Blake Griffin retired today. Lob City is done with for sure. Well, that was done with a long time ago, but Blake Griffin did retire in the most Blake Griffin fashion in his little letter, which is phenomenal.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. How is he old?
He's like 30.
He's just not good anymore?
Well, he's tore his ACL once. And
I literally do not follow the NBA. I am just is all like news. This is very helpful. This is very insightful.
Well, yeah, here to help you. I mean, shout out to Blake Griffin. His time is up. Once he lost that athleticism, jumping over people, he did have a little bit of a jump shot game, but good for him. Now he can be like an actor or something. I feel like Blake Griffin could have a nice fun afterlife, being like some sort of like actor comedian.
A couple years ago, during the summer, he was an intern for Jimmy Kimmel or something, doing sketch comedy.
Perfect. That's exactly I would love to see him do
Just
more of that.
yeah, me too. USA Team USA's final roster spot has been filled by Kawhi Leonard.
Is that officially official? But I thought they were just prospecting that it would be Kawhi Leonard.
Nope, it came out today saying he took the last spot.
Yeah, shout out to the Team USA trying to bring out the Avengers to Paris. Literally pulling out all the stops this year with that roster.
Well, they're like, we need to win because lately we haven't won. So
Do you think this is the most important Olympics for the men's basketball team?
100%.
Like, I feel like they gotta like if they don't win the gold medal, it's like
it's a
complete
fail.
failure. US is no longer the leader in basketball. Like, it's I don't know. I think this is like a big year.
It 100% is a massive year. And the question comes too, because Joel Embiid is part of the team, but he had knee surgery this year. He hasn't played much basketball. How well is he going to be? And you're also going to have to factor in every player on that team is on a playoff team right now. Tatum and Drew Holiday are projected to go to the NBA Finals. That's a lot of basketball. That's a lot of wear and tear on the body. So we'll see how well they do. But I do agree, if they do not win the gold, there's some serious talks going around that, what to do next.
Right.
Because
let's let the people know who is technically on this roster real quick. So you have Golden State, Steph Curry. You have the Lakers, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. The Suns is Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. You have Merritt's duo of Tatum and Drew Holiday. Philly's Joel Embiid. Indiana's Tyrese Halliburton. Minnesota's Anthony Edwards. Miami's Bam Adebayo, along with now Kawhi Leonard being the leading vacancy for Team USA if that is not going to be fully official. But
so do you notice something? We have a lot of small forwards on this roster and a lot of guys that are about the same height.
not necessarily. I'm looking at the breakdown right now. It is you have 3 point guard. You have a couple. You have now, if you include Kawhi Leonard, you have around 3 sort of swingmen, and then you have 3 bigger guys.
But majority of those guys are, besides Davis and Embiid, are about the same height. They're all about that 6'4" to 6'7", 6'8" range. Besides like your point guards, where Drew Holiday is like 6'2".
I mean, I guess so.
Yeah, but here's the thing with the Olympics. I feel like, as you know, every 4 years we watch the Olympics. It's just about like who gives a shit, right?
Yeah.
It's true.
If the U.S. shows up and they give a shit, we win. If we don't, we lose. Like, that's all it is.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's literally that is all it is. And so I don't know.
I'll be back. He needs a bottle.
I wouldn't take stock in like specific things. Like, it is what it is.
No, yeah, it'll be interesting. I think because I think right now the team that a lot of people are scared of with the U.S. because they showed this year is that Canadian team, which they got a lot of the younger guys in the NBA that are like killing it right now, like Jamal Murray and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and a couple of like the bigger guys. I just for drawing a blank on their names right now, but yeah, this is a big year. I think they should be. I would say this is just as big as maybe that 2018.
That was the last time I really remember being into the Olympics. It was actually my freshman year at West Virginia.
Yeah, me and yours, Merritt's.
I remember sitting in Dadisman Hall watching us play it. Like, it was, it started like super late. It was like midnight or something because it was in Beijing, I believe. And so Yeah, I remember that. But I agree. I agree. What is your favorite Olympic sport to watch outside of
Oh, great question, John. My
summer Olympic sport?
my favorite Summer Olympic sport is gymnastics. I
Swimming,
don't know why.
swimming.
I like the athleticism of gymnastics. Honestly, people think that I look like I should have done gymnastics. So I think it's cool. I appreciate the art of like doing the little pommel horse, the parallel bars. I never remember when I was younger. I don't know if you guys had that in elementary school where you had to do a little gymnastics show. Couldn't do it. Couldn't participate because I couldn't do any of the moves. A little struggle.
Gymnastics is 100% the most impressive. Like
Mhm.
these people are so, and it's not just the Americans, right? Like, I mean, like Russia and
The
China,
Russia and China.
they're just so dialed in and like, holy shit. To me, swimming is the most exciting,
Yeah.
mostly because I feel like, I don't know, it's like track, but more condensed or something.
Yes.
And we
Like,
were hyped for years with the Michael Phelps and Ryan Lochte and all
right.
that. So
And now, well, remember we got Katie Ledecky this year,
Yeah,
who's
Ledecky.
gonna be a big deal. If she can win a couple more medals, she'll be like the greatest, like female
France
Olympian
is
of all
always
time.
like pretty good at swimming. So I always like that one. I also like the one that I like to watch kind of separate is handball. I
ooh, I
just
haven't
think
watched that one.
it's a fascinating sport.
Hmm.
And you only get to see it during the Olympics, right? Um, about Winter Olympics.
Winter Olympics has always been speed skating for me.
The
Mm-hmm.
snowboard half pipe.
Oh,
Yeah.
Anton Ono, man, like love the speed skating.
Love
Oh
Anton
yeah.
Ono forever, man. Such a star. I mean, like literally, you can literally sneeze and the race is already over. But I always love watching him during the Winter Olympics. Such a
Yeah,
good time.
I agree. Nice. Not
Yes.
too far away. Like Olympics around the corner.
Yeah. A couple of months.
And
Yeah.
the
3
opening
months.
ceremonies is like going to be down the river and stuff. It's going to be sweet.
I wonder if they cleared up all the bed bugs. I know they had that problem. It's true. Well, NFL draft is literally 9 days, 8 days, 7 days away, something like that. Um, I'm excited because my team gets to pick in like the first couple picks, so I can go to bed early. I don't have to wait till the end of like 11 o'clock at night for my Patriots to pick.
Your
Love
Patriots.
that.
Forgot about that.
Hey, hey, Kevin, who do you think your Steelers are going to go with this year?
I'll be 100% honest. I have no idea. I haven't even like done my like research on it. So like I figured I'll just kind of like let it happen. I think I keep hearing that they want to get another wide receiver to help out. I think they have pick number 20 if I got that correctly. So we'll see. I probably need to like do more research, but that's what I've been
I'm
getting
very
in the
jealous.
research.
You guys got Justin Fields, right?
Yeah, Justin
Very jealous
Fields.
about that. As someone who lived in Chicago for 3 years, like I've watched the Bears because I felt bad for him and it was the only thing on. It started to become a Bears fan mainly because of Justin Fields. And I really wanted the Falcons to go get him. I just
We
think man, like he did more for the Bears. The Bears were terrible. They had no offensive line.
It's a
He played
fact.
shit weather constantly. The fact that he won what 5 or 6 games or maybe more, and then they lost. If you look at their record last year, like they lost like probably another 4 or 5 by like less than a touchdown.
they
Like
lost the most games by like one score, I think,
yeah,
last year
like
by any team.
he was the will of that team. Like you probably couldn't tell me another player on their offensive roster. And so
Yeah.
like he did so much for that team. Oh, killed me. It's gonna be interesting in Pittsburgh with him and Russ though. So
I'm not gonna lie, I just couldn't believe the crumbs that Chicago accepted to trade for him. Like we got him for nothing.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. I would have thought it would have cost like at minimum maybe at least a second round pick, but we gave up nothing for him, and I just couldn't believe it.
Is what
yeah,
it is.
his contract was, not great, but like I don't yeah. Anyways, we'll see. I hope he does well in Pittsburgh. And the nice thing for Pittsburgh too is like I don't like he's used to the Pittsburgh weather. right? Like it's not like you're getting some guy from Miami or someone who's worse used to like throwing like he's Ohio State, he's
Yeah.
Chicago. Like he's used to the like shit November weather, which I
Oh
think will
yeah.
be
And now they're going to have Caleb Williams go under center, and he has never played in shit
I know.
weather.
I just don't get it. I just feel like if you're the Bears, you could have like traded that, gotten some picks,
And
started
build
building up
around
your
him.
offensive line, like
Hmm.
just get picks. If there was I can't remember where it was, but if you look at the number of like a graph of the number of the longevity in the NFL, it's not the first round. It's actually like the most second and third round picks stick around the longest, right? And you're getting better value out of those guys too. Like trade your first round picks, bank second and third round picks, go get like offensive line in these non-sexy positions. I just like
Hmm.
don't get it. I like if I can find this, like the Bears general manager should be able to find this too. It I,
Well,
It's the
I
Belichick
agree.
approach. It's literally the Belichick approach from the early 2000s. Trade your first round pick, get another second, third rounder.
It's all about numbers, man. Like
Yeah,
it's about banking young guys because you got to increase your probabilities, and so you're going to increase your probabilities by drafting more people. It's just math. Anyways,
Man, John, you just spit in the wisdom today, because like, yeah, that's so true.
it is very true.
Absolutely. Because like that is literally the how Merit's Patriots have been alive for so many years, because they trade their first round pick and they're getting all these people that are good from like third round on. And that's really it, because those I think those guys have a lot more to play for,
They fight
because
more for their
they fight
position.
more for their spot.
I mean, I guess like probably look, number one is probably different than number four. Like there's probably like there are probably more number one picks that are successful just because it's like the best player. But I don't know. Like look at like the most of like Tom Brady.
Pick
Like just
199.
right? Like just look at those guys.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true.
it makes me angry. It makes me angry that people don't figure this out. But
Yeah. And then, John, your Atlanta Falcons, they went and got, Kirk Cousins.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I want him on the Patriots, to be honest. So
Ever since 28-3 Merritt, it's been tough for me to really get into NFL.
I
I'm
hear you on
sorry.
that.
I wasn't even gonna bring that up. I'm so sorry for that.
Now, John, does this bug you that you guys gave 180 million to yo, I'm sorry, you gave 200 million to Kirk Cousins, who's coming off a torn like
Achilles.
Achilles, where you could have gave Lamar Jackson 180 for a similar time
Here's
frame.
my thing. One, I have no idea because I don't know. But I do recognize that if you look like typically the big contract like doesn't ever hit the value of it, right? Which is why like I thought Justin Fields was an interesting play because it's like he's less than a Kirk Cousins. You're not competing on free agency. You can go get him. You're not going to get him into a bidding war, right? You got a
Hmm.
couple of years of him. Like I don't know. I always get nervous when they give out these like huge contracts because all it takes is one injury and then you're done, right? Like um the last time the Falcon, I mean, well, Matt Ryan, I guess, like that worked out. But I mean, I don't know if you recall, but the Falcons, when they signed Mike Vick, like it was this incredibly huge contract. And obviously he got like it was after like the one good season because scrambling quarterbacks weren't a thing in the NFL. And he made Green Bay look like dumbasses in Lambeau. And they're like, let's give him a ton of money. And then he started dogfighting and he hurt his knee and it was a whole thing, right? I don't know. I hope it works out. Like now that I'm back in Atlanta, like I'm gonna be able to watch the Falcons again. So I definitely hope it works out. But I do think like if you can get Kirk Cousins, obviously can he's like a very talented quarterback. Like if that's what the Falcons need, then that's what the Falcons need. But I don't know. Like I mean, it worked for Matt Ryan. Like he's kind of a similar quarterback to Matt Ryan,
Yeah, he
honestly.
is.
Right?
Yeah,
Like
for
very
sure.
similar guy. Like and Matt Ryan was really successful for many years. Like he just was like, had it not been for Kyle Shanahan refusing to run the ball, he probably would have won a Super Bowl. And so it's like, I just like, I think that, I don't know. We'll see. Look, you do your due diligence, right? So like, they've clearly his ankle is fine and whatever, but I don't know. He seems like a good dude too. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know. I'm pretty impressed with a bunch of his news conferences.
I do like him. I think it'll be good. I think he got overpaid for sure. He's the only quarterback. I think he's got $500 million money he's made and only one playoff victory.
Sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it works out.
I think my fingers are crossed for you, John. All right. So while Merritt is doing dad duty for a second, so I mean, of course, you gotta talk about the old alma mater. So right now, WVU football updates. We have the spring game right around the corner. So, we had a much. John, have you followed our football teams?
I have.
Yes. What are your thoughts on them? Like
So
within the
I'll say
last.
this. I'll say this. Over
Go
the last,
ahead.
so I worked at the University of Washington for 5 years.
Yeah, yeah.
I have been like, I'm actually like probably a bigger University of Washington fan than I am West Virginia fan, which I feel guilty admitting, but like, I don't know, like it was my life for five
Yeah.
years. And, like I owe a lot to them. So obviously that's been great, but I will watch West Virginia when they're on.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this. I was of the proponent for the last couple of seasons, like we need to lose, we need to get rid of Neil Brown, we need to reset, whatever. Which I felt very strongly about through most of last year.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know. Like so a couple things. One, like West Virginia is only going to win like 10 games a year, probably like once every 7 or 8 years. Like we need to be realistic with like what success actually is. Like we're not winning a natty every year. We're not winning the Big 12 every year. We're never going to be Alabama. We're never going to be Texas. We're never going to be Georgia. It is what it is, right? So we need to like look at like what does success look like? I also think we need to look at it from like who are we going to go get that's better? Who knows, right? Like I don't know that West Virginia could go compete for someone who's a whole lot better right now, right? Like money wise, getting them to come to the Big 12, I don't think it's likely.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Neil Brown was able to pull together whatever remnants of the season, I don't even remember how many games we won last year.
We won 9,
We
and we
won
were
9 games,
projected
and we probably should have
last.
won when we should have won at least one more.
We should have
Yes.
won
Like that last
two.
second crap.
We should have won two, or I think they said
The
two more
the
games.
Houston game we should have won, and then
The Oklahoma State game at home, we gave
Yes.
away at the end.
so like I mean granted you could say the same thing like well we could have lost that one whatever
We could have lost to Texas Tech.
let's say you could have won 10 games like it if he can come in and win 10 games and we're not competing in the transfer portal like there's a lot of like headwinds right now. So if I don't know, I'm kind of coming around to him a little bit to the point of like I'm excited for this year and I really want him to win because I think if he has another like good year, I think this year's gonna be tough. But if he can pull something out of his ass this year, then I'm like I'm a Neil Brown fan. We'll see.
Wow.
Also, like basketball's miserable, so like we got to find something to root for.
That is true, and we'll get to basketball. Yeah, I mean, the transfer portal I believe opened up today, or yesterday.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. It comes of that. I thought it was very interesting. So transfer portal opened up today. WV still has around 5 more practices before the spring game. Spring game, I believe, is the 27th, and then the transfer portal closes the 30th. So that's a very interesting thing to think about if somebody's trying to leave. I mean, I think he almost did that on purpose if they scheduled it that way. But yeah, John, I'm with you.
What do you guys think though? Like, I'm curious. When I said that I was a Neil Brown hater, Merritt almost jumped out of his chair.
Merritt is the number one Neil Brown.
No, I would say Leland.
Yes, you are.
Leland probably hates him more than I do.
Oh, Leland, what a guy!
But yes. I'm probably on the same boat as you, John, right now. For the past couple of years, I've been very down on the program. I went and got season tickets because, hey, why not? I want to be able to go to games and have fun. We went to the Pitt game last year. I said, if we only won the Pitt game, I would have said that
losing that was awful.
We were there for that first one, John. It was the most excruciating loss to be in person, I have to say.
And we'll be there this year too. But like, if we had only won the Pitt game, I would have been happy with that whole season.
Me too.
Yeah, because we beat Pitt. That's all that mattered, in my opinion. But then going on and winning 9 games, winning your bowl game against, granted, a UNC team that didn't have a top 3 pick on the
It
at
doesn't matter.
quarterback.
A win's a win. Like in
But
college football nowadays,
I'm gonna take the win because hell, we deserved it. We looked great, and if he has a good year again, okay, maybe he's finally figured it out. And I know we're in the era of college sports where if you're not successful in the first 3 years, you're gone, which is horrible thinking in the long run. But if he has built a program and it's successful this year, I'm cool with him staying around a little bit longer to see what he can do.
I don't want us to get into a situation where we're like trying to bid on the next big football coach and we end up paying too much and
Yeah.
get crazy terms and we set the athletic department back years. Like, how much is like a college, like you could make an argument that college football might be the biggest because of play calling, but like I actually don't think his play calling has been terrible. It's been the skill. But like how much really does like I mean, what is an extra what paying another coach an extra $1 million a year? Like, what is that actually going to get us?
Right.
Right? Like, I make the argument that like if we can get a favorable contract with Neil Brown and we can get out of it whenever we need to get out of it, and it's like not costing us a ton of money, like that might be more advantageous because now we can go spend money on the things that actually matter versus spending, a ton of money on someone else. But I don't know. Who knows? Hopefully they do well.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
we'll
I'm
see.
on the verge. I'm taking it on a year by year basis with our team. It's you like for example, like this year after yes, go grab that beer, John. So after last year, the expectation is high. We really want to see them like have a good year again because
Mhm.
we want to get back to those days of us winning like 8 or 9 games like we used to. So I'm optimistic. We'll see. Like it's always happens. Like we plan and plan that they're gonna have this one type of year, and then all of a sudden some sort of freak injury happens
Right.
or something goes wrong here. It's just like the West Virginia way. Like there's always something that's got to happen and will happen. So I'm just continue to look forward, eyes forward. Don't look in the past, and wish for the best.
Nope, totally agree. And as John said, basketball is crap, but hey, we got a new head coach and a new staff and some good players coming over here. So maybe we'll be successful in basketball.
Well, we
Can,
haven't really
can be
had a
worse.
staff yet. I think we hired one person,
Hey, it's
and
better than
then
nothing.
one. Yeah, yes, true. And we only have the coach's son, Tucker, come, and then a high schooler committed,
I
along
love the
with.
hire, by the way.
Oh, I
I
think it's a great
Oh
hire.
yeah,
love
yeah,
the hire. I think perfect example. And I really, when Rim Baker came out and said we're not going to get into a bidding war with someone, I like literally stood up and clapped.
I love
You don't need to. You
I
don't need
love
to.
him as our athletic director, by the way. He's phenomenal.
It's just like we don't. He, I think, realizes like where we're at, right? Like we're not going to go compete with Bama. We're not going to go compete with Texas. It's not what we need to do. We need to play like Moneyball, right? With
Mhm.
college
yes.
athletics. And we need to like invest in smart ways and realize that like us we just need to get like a program builder, especially like with all the BS we've been going through over the last year and a half with the whole like
Yeah.
get someone who's going to be here and not going to jump ship, right? Like that is the most important thing is stability. Like look at all these schools that are losing their like it's stability. That's all that matters.
Oh
That's
yeah. Like
true.
think it's true. Think about like, the Kentuckys right now. They're practically imploding with
They've
everybody
lost
leaving.
everybody.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the press conference that Mark Pope did at Rupp Arena and stuff? And like, dude, it was wild. They
Yeah.
brought in the 1990 because he played for Kentucky, he won the title with them in 96.
Yeah.
The bus into the arena, and the whole 1996 team gets off the bus, and
And
he's the
he's
last
carrying the
one with the
trophy.
trophy.
Yo.
And then
College athletics, wild.
did you
Crazy.
see Calipari's press conference? They asked him how's the team. He goes, I met the team. There is no team. Like everyone left. Like once who was
Muscle,
that? Who was
muscle.
that?
Musselman went to USC.
Musselman, yeah. So once Musselman left, everyone there was like, all right, well, we're gone. And then Calipari's coming over, and he's bringing at least one Kentucky player at this point. I don't know if there's any other ones that are going to come over with him, but it's interesting. He's making $7 million a year, pretty
Shout
sure,
out to the Tyson Foods for providing all that.
and Walmart.
Gotta love the chicken nuggets.
Yeah,
Yes.
seriously. Hey, those chicken nuggets are pretty damn good. But another basketball program that's really good is our women's basketball team. They finished 24th in the final rankings. So it's pretty good. And then in the way too early poll, they're at 16. So I'll take it. John, you said program builder. We got that with our new women's basketball head coach.
Great. And
Great
honestly,
hire.
should have beat Iowa too. Like, should have
I-
100% beat Iowa. We got
Yup.
completely screwed in that game.
Don't even get me started with that.
I know. I didn't
was
want to talk about it
so
either, but I just need
pissed.
to acknowledge it. That was bullshit.
My respect, and Caitlin Clark, like we mentioned, has done phenomenal things for women's sports. She took the steps of that all the women before her have taken, blah, blah, blah. My respect level for her did go down on how she handled that game. I was pissed. Like, watching her play basketball, I was like, she's not even getting back on defense. West Virginia's running up and down the floor and scoring and doing else, and she's still bitching about a call.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
She's complained. She's turned into a complainer.
I agree.
But no, look, the West Virginia guy though, the coach, like we're after the whole thing with the woman leaving after a year, whatever. We I think are in a really good spot.
Oh, we definitely are.
No Mike Carey, but we're still in a good spot.
I'm happy it's not Mike Carey. I had to deal with Mike Carey for 3 years. I'm good.
I love me a good fighting Mike, but
oh yeah, go to a practice. Go to one of their practices, John. It was so much fun.
I was media. I wasn't allowed at practice.
That's true. You weren't.
I
was
love to come to practice. In fact, it's crazy that I didn't try to like get more info from you.
You should have asked. I would have given you everything.
Yeah.
I would have spilled the tea.
Oh. Maybe it would have ended up a journalist with all these hard-hitting West Virginia basketball breaking news stories.
That's fantastic.
Well, let's dive into the fun part of this conversation of asking all these questions that I sent over to John, but probably a lot more because Kevin likes to go off the rails at times.
And honestly, I will go off the rails because it is what I do. But John, if you have any extra questions for us that you want to throw in, please. We're all about it.
Yeah, of course.
100%. Kevin, you want to ask the first question?
Oh, cool. Yeah. So John, your first question that Merritt has written on the screen right here. What my phone keeps banging. My apologies. What was it like to work for the DA, the good old Daily Athenaeum at
I loved it. I took it way too seriously. It was a lot of fun.
Didn't you get tear gassed?
I would like go out and the do all sorts of crazy stuff. I mean, it was like I would work 40 hours a week there, right? Like I would get done with class and then I go to the DA until probably like midnight.
Yeah, you were always like working and then you had to come back to class the next morning. You were
it was fun, man. But like all my friends now, like I'm still friends with a lot of those DA guys, right? And women and it's not like a daily newspaper anymore. So it like pretty much like there were a bunch of things that were happening when we were there. Like the journalism school tried to take it over, and we were like, hell no. Like this isn't a journalism school thing. This is like an independent student newspaper. So we fought that off, and then I mean it was like student run. I don't know that you guys ever went into the building, but like I mean there were no adults there. Like it's crazy that it actually happened. It's a miracle that I didn't like beer, but like we like literally every day from like 3 until 11 o'clock would produce a newspaper, like, and it would get done. It was wild. And
that is crazy.
Like no, there were no adults. Like I shit you not. Like the adults left at 4. Like so when we were showing up, no adults. It's like students governing students. Like all the I mean it's
That's
crazy.
pretty wild to think about.
How did things get done?
I did payroll. I did payroll for all of the students. I was 18 or 19, 20, whatever I was. So, and it was daily, right? So like every night we finished up the newspaper somewhere between 10 and midnight. You send it to the printer. The printer prints it, and then it gets distributed at like 4 or 5 a.m. the next morning. It was Sunday through Thursday, right? Because it was Monday through
Yeah.
Friday paper. So like it was a ton of fun, a lot of work. The night Osama bin Laden was killed was probably the most memorable night.
I remember this because you came into class like the day or
We had
two
a
later.
final. I believe we had a final the next day because it was in May. I'm pretty sure we had it might have been it was a Bravo final. That's all I remember.
Oh my
Oh
gosh, the
God.
one in like that random
Yes.
basement hall, right?
It was I don't know. I just remember it was a Bravo final. I didn't study for it, but I knew I was gonna get an A in the like I had to get like a 50 or something to not get an A.
It's Bravo. You just had to show up, really,
And by
and
the
you were
way, I've
fine.
I've like spoken to a bunch of his classes. But we'll get to that here in a minute.
Oh
Um,
gosh, it's awesome.
And this was my first night as managing editor, right? Like I was just a sports reporter and I was taking over as managing editor. And it was like 8 o'clock or something when the AP comes through that Obama's delivering a statement and no one knew what was going on. And you got to remember, like, this is like back in 2010, 11, like Twitter wasn't like as much of a thing. Like it
Yeah.
just like wasn't a thing. And then it came out that like a bin Laden was killed. And so we were like, well, we're done with the paper. It's Sunday night. Like, what are we doing? And so we said, no, let's go report on this. We had photographers out and about. Very quickly, we realized there was like fires and rioting and celebrations all around Morgantown. And there's this newspaper picture of a couch burning on High Street. And our photographer went out there and got this picture. I think John Flowers is in the picture maybe.
Yeah, John Flowers like by the fire.
Yeah. And it was right at the top of High Street, right? Like, and we got that. We started writing a story about reactions. We were going out interviewing people. We were the only college newspaper on the East Coast to have any type of original reporting on it. The picture
Wow.
got picked up by the New York Times. And I remember the next morning. So I didn't leave the newspaper until 4:30 in the morning, I think. Like I left, we finished as the people who distribute the newspaper were showing up, and they showed up and they're like, "Wait, we don't have the paper yet?" They're like, "No, sorry, like we just finished it." Like kind of a crazy night, and we ended up. I just remember I went home and I slept for like 2 hours. I think the final was at like 10 a.m. or something, and I
Mhm.
woke up early because I wanted to walk through life sciences to go get on the PRT because I wanted to see if the newspaper was there.
Yeah.
And I walked through and the newspaper was there. And I was like, that's incredible. Like 5 hours after we sent this to the printer, the newspaper's on campus. I was like the coolest thing. And then all the next day, like we were doing follow-up reporting. I was getting like interviewed about like, we had like original content and all this stuff. And like, yeah, it was nuts. It was a crazy night. But I mean, like, as you can tell, I still remember very vividly.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean that was the time for us like during that. What was that? Was that 2011 around?
was it May 4th of 2011?
Yeah, because that had to be like our junior year, right?
It was May 2nd of 2011 or May 3rd of
Yeah,
2011 or
so
something.
that's like our junior. That was like,
It was at the end of our junior year.
yeah, that was like a huge time to be alive. But like
Yeah.
everything that happened during that time, like
Well, then even at Sunnyside, like Sunnyside was burning. Like I remember running around and I was at like some RA banquet or something that night. And so I was
ah,
wearing like nice clothes. And I remember running around Sunnyside just being like, holy shit, like this is nuts. Like, what's going on here?
yeah,
That was
God,
crazy.
I remember that time where like, because everybody kept like posting all their pictures that like, oh, just come out, and everybody, freaking out with everything going on, and of course I remember seeing like the big photo of like John Flowers in
Yeah.
front of the fire, and it was just everywhere. Man,
Yeah. But I
man.
don't know. Like it was great though, right? Like I got to like travel for football games and I got to travel, like I got to go watch the Big East women's basketball tournament 2 straight years with like Maya Moore and Tina Charles and like, like
Oh,
these
that's the time.
OG like UConn players. So yeah, I mean, and like it was a great student job. Like I made a good bit of money off the DA.
Oh my
Basically
God, like
bought
having
me a
that
car.
for while being in college and us, money in college is tough to
Yeah,
come by.
yeah. But
Like
it was fun. Like, and then that kind of molded with like the sport management crew and like Nick and whatever. And then we'd all go hang out. And it was just, I don't know, it's a good time, dude. But
yeah.
now it's once a week. They only do it once a
Really?
week now. It's terrible. It's like it's been completely ruined. And it just makes me so sad that like these experiences that I think, quite honestly, man, like the most valuable experience, the most valuable work experience that I had, better, more important than any class or any grad assistantship, anything that I've ever had was the DA.
Oh, I bet.
The most I learned in college was from the DA. I mean, I worked there, like I finished managing editor. So I worked there all 4 years of undergrad, and then I stayed on and helped for 2 years in grad school. So I might be the longest tenure DA employee
Oh my
here.
gosh.
Uh,
They need to make a
the
plaque
plaque.
or a
Give me a
award
plaque.
for you.
Yeah, yeah. But nah, dude, it was amazing. It was just incredible. And look, I think part of it's like I took it way too seriously. Like that was my life. Like you probably picked up the DA like once a week or something. And to me, like when we had a typo on the front page, like that was the end of it. Right? Like
Oh my
we
gosh.
had those. And so, but
Yeah.
it was great.
Yeah. I always enjoyed the DA because then knowing that you were always the one that in charge, I was like, I always made sure that I took a look around. So I did like a little spring cleaning and I found the DA of when we went to like we won the Big East championship that year. So it's still in my room. I was like my parents like took it and I'm like, whoa, you can't throw that out. We gotta keep that. I'll be in a memento
And I
one day.
believe that was a on the front page, it said, God, it's a huge font. It's like a
Yes.
one word thing, and there's a picture of someone cutting down the net. I think it was Deshaun Butler cutting down the net or something like that. It's on the
Yeah. I think it just said champs on it.
champs, yeah, champs, and then Deshaun Butler's kind of at the front page. I remember that.
Yes. And then there's like the little photo of them when they, when every time when every team they win, they get the big cardboard Big East
Yeah.
championship cut out. There's
And
like a
then
small
like
little
yeah,
photo on the
yeah,
right
yeah,
on the side. Love
yeah.
it. All right, well, Mr. Peasley is handling dad duties. We're gonna go ahead and move on. So you transitioned, leaving WU, you were finished off the D as managing editor. You then started to get to the operations side of sportness. So how did we transition to that side?
So I always wanted I never wanted to be on the journalism side. Like I was doing that solely just because like it sounded fun. But I always want to do the op stuff. Like I always like the behind the scenes stuff, like the see how the sausage gets made. Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that's what I did. Like you know, I'd go and just did like the nitty gritty, like would West Virginia baseball games and volleyball matches and all sorts of stuff. And then obviously was a grad assistant in West Virginia, or not obviously, your listeners don't know, but it was a grad assistant in West Virginia and just like did all the facilities and op stuff. Loved it. I think something about just like knowing like how shit happens behind the scenes, like always has piqued my interest. Like when the Final Four was in Atlanta, I came back down here and helped with that. It was junior
Oh,
year,
amazing.
spring break junior year, or spring break sophomore year. And I like drove the referees to the game in a minivan with like a police escort. It was incredible. It was like one of the cool, I still remember it, right? Um, I don't
Yeah,
know.
so what, you drove the referees to the game?
Yes, we're in the basement of this hotel. I think it was the Marriott Marquis in downtown Atlanta. And you're in the loading dock, and the loading dock has like this gate. So they have, I think it was two minivans per each referee crew. And you go down there and they like, do the bomb dog of all the things. I was driving the van. You had an armed security guard in the front seat. And I think you had basically because the referees could bring their family. So you had like two vans, like, and there's the backup referee in the final four. Um, yeah, so I had a police escort going through Atlanta, was driving on the wrong side of Peachtree Road, drove it into the loading dock of the Georgia Dome at the time
Hmm.
and watched the game from the court. Like I was right off because at that point, and I guess it still is, the courts are elevated or whatever. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
literally right off one of the corners, just standing there watching. It was
That's
awesome.
incredible. That's
Um,
incredible.
yeah, so I don't know. I always kind of like that. I think like and now I'm more on like the revenue side of things too, with in addition to the operation stuff. But like I just love how, and this is gonna sound bad, but when I was an RA, or no, when I
Hmm.
was a resident,
Yeah.
whenever like the the cops showed up, I was like, oh, I wonder what's happening down there, right? Like what are they getting? Then I was an RA and I could go like ask like, hey, what's going on down here? So just knowing like how things work, like how things happen.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
for sure.
Like I think it's fascinating. Like there's so much just random stuff that happens that,
That we don't even realize.
you don't even realize. To me, it's second nature. Like to me, I don't think it's a big deal. But like to you, it's like, oh wow, that's interesting. But yeah, I
Let
don't
me
know.
ask
I
you.
kind of I kind of just and then I got lucky, right? Like I
Yeah,
got super lucky and like that's what it takes.
yeah, and that led you to was your work over at WV kind of what led you to your next step over at UW?
So kind of. I
Mm-hmm.
think, yeah, I mean, yes, like obviously it was like the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I got that Washington job was because my senior year of high school, in between senior year of high school and freshman year of college, I played a summer league ultimate frisbee game. I was
Yes,
the
I do
player.
remember you, legendary, the ultimate
Yeah.
frisbee guy.
Yep. And this summer league, like at some crappy park in downtown Atlanta, like probably needles in the grass. And the assistant director of operations or someone for Georgia Tech athletic department was on the team. And I introduced myself and I was like, hey man, like I'd love to like work for you. And he's like, hey, hit me up when you after your first year of college and you can come work for me. It's like great, great. First year of college, hit him up. I go volunteer at all these NCAA softball events and baseball events like in the summer, right? Tennis, just like doing everything from like selling merchandise to pulling the tarp to whatever. I do that for 4 years. He left at one point to go up to Minnesota. Anyways, fast forward, I applied for like 100 jobs, right? Like I was getting rejected from everything. And like I felt like I had a pretty good resume. And like I applied for this job at Washington and I sent him a note. His name's Andrew. And I said, hey, do you know anyone at Washington? He goes, oh yeah. The hiring manager used to work for me in Minnesota. Let me make a phone call. So he made a phone call. I got a courtesy interview. I later found out they had no interest in hiring me. It was just like, hey, like, and I guess I sounded like I knew what I was talking about and then ended up getting the job. So that's the only, I mean, that is the only reason I got the job, right? Like it was crazy. And I got so lucky to end up at a place like University of Washington and like
Yeah.
great city and like a great institution and whatever. And was there, I don't know. I feel very fortunate that everything worked out.
Yeah, what? So it's funny because every time I think of University of Washington, I think of like I always think of you when you're over there. And then shout out to University of Washington right now because I know they've had a lot of success with their football program. One of my good friends, he runs the Bow Down podcast, which is a Washington football specific podcast, in
Right.
which he has brought on a lot of older players, current players on there. They had Bishop Sankey on there a couple of weeks back. Corey Dillon. They had a couple of the draft picks that are like coming up like now. So definitely since you're a Washington
How,
football fan,
how do you
fuck
know
it.
this guy?
Yeah, how do I know him?
Yeah.
So he he works for the company that I work for now. The podcast doesn't know where I work for, but
Got it.
he worked for a certain spot for the company that I work for, and
Got
I
it.
went to his location to train. We became friends because we're both wrestling guys, and then
The rest is history.
the rest has been history. So
The
then he's
dude,
legit. His name is Joe McGrath. Shout out to you, Joe. He also just recently had a baby girl the other week or so
Couple weeks
ago. So
ago.
yeah,
one of my like claim to fames is when we beat. So I oversaw like all the sailgating out there. That was like my first job. It was like oversee the sailgating because it's right on the lake.
yeah.
I've never been on a boat. I'm from Atlanta and went to school at West Virginia. I didn't know shit about boats. And so I'm like out there, like trying to figure that basically with a bunch of rich people with big boats, like trying to figure things out. And I, so we played Stanford on a Friday night. It was the first time we went to the college football playoff, and Coach Pete was still there. I was out there hanging out. I noticed this reporter out there, and it was a guy named Chuck Culpepper. He's a Washington Post sports columnist. And I was like, well, I'm gonna go talk to this guy. Like, I want to get some publicity or what, like I want to try to like, I'm trying to like get people to learn about sailgating. And so I basically went and talked to him and we won the game. We beat the shit out of Stanford. The next morning, I'm like just refreshing because I ended up talking to this guy for like probably, I don't know, 20 minutes. and he followed me on Twitter and all this stuff. And because he was Florida Daddy, my name was John Terry because he's a soccer guy. And so I woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I just sent through the article. And I was quoted before Jake Browning in this article, which was our quarterback at the time. And it's like all about like sailgating and stuff. And it was like the coolest, it was the coolest thing. And yeah, Chuck is me and him have kind of semi-stayed in contact, but it was amazing, man. I love my time there. It was, I thought I was only going to be out there for a couple years and then ended up staying out there for nearly 6. And like Seattle is an incredible place. Like it's just amazing. So it all worked out.
John, you talked about Washington. What's most memorable moment other than the? I mean, I feel like you're sailgating. I knew that was coming. What most memorable moment that you got that you had over there?
Ooh. So for like my first 3 years, I never was in the football stadium for games, right? Like I was always outside. I would go in sometimes, and then my final 2 years, I was in the stadium. Probably my was it my last year there or second to last year there? We had a game we played Cal, so it doesn't lightning in Seattle, like it just doesn't, like it never lightnings.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the command post. At this point, I was overseeing the football stadium, and thunderstorms are very clearly coming in. We're very clearly going to get hit with lightning. We're very clearly going to have to stop the game, right? So there were like 10 minutes and 20 seconds left in the first quarter. The game had just started. Lightning's coming in, we clear the stadium, whatever. All of a sudden, we get all these lightning strikes, power surge the lights. All the lights went off twice. It was horrible. It's like a 3.5 hour rain delay. I remember my boss looking at me being like, the lights just went out. I'm like, well, yeah. What do you want me to do about it? Like, go flip the switch? Like, there's a lightning storm, but no one would leave the stadium. They're all in the stadium because no one believed that lightning was actually coming.
Oh my God.
So finishing that game at like 2:45 in the morning, we lost in overtime. It was horrible. And then we like a bunch of events people, like probably 10 of us just stayed and just drank. I mean, it was just such a miserable night, right? As you can imagine. And so I ended up getting home at like 5:15 in the morning. One of my coworkers had to drive me home. I was like just north of the stadium. I wasn't far, so I was on their way home. But yeah, I got home at like 5:15 in the morning, went to sleep, and then woke up. My brother wasn't down. Woke up like 2.5 hours later to go eat brunch. But maybe that, like, like the Washington Post thing is probably one. I don't know, like a lot of good memories, nothing that like is like there were just a lot of memories, right? Like it was just great.
Yeah,
Like made a lot of friends. Like I still stay in touch with many of them, right? Like a lot of them were at my wedding. And so it was just like it was like
That's
a very
awesome.
like influential time in my life.
love that. Merritt, you got the next question, sir.
Why? Because I've been gone for ever.
I mean, I can keep going. I mean, here, okay, here we go, John.
I'm kidding. No, you hush, hush you. You're going to ask more questions later. I know it, so it's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
So we're at Washington for basically like 6 years. How did you now, for what, the past 4 or so 5 years?
Almost 5.
How did you move over to
So
U.S.
yeah,
men's
so
soccer?
yeah, so it's both men's and women's. It's U.S. soccer just in general. It's not
Okay.
one. So I told Kevin while you were gone this story about how I ended up how I got my job at Washington, right? It was like pure luck. I knew someone and whatever. Well, this time I literally applied on Teamwork Online.
Shout out to Teamwork Online.
I
Like the
haven't
only
heard
time
that.
it's ever been successful, right?
I
Yeah.
think it worked for me when I got my job at ASU, but that was about
So
it.
Teamwork Online actually helped me get the job, my part-time job at MetLife Stadium, which really ended up being like,
A full-time job.
no, not really. It's just been with me since for 11 years. I've sort of still been there. And then it helped me get my job at the Rutgers ticket office. So I think it works
It's
once or
just it's
twice.
crazy though, right? Like, and so yeah, that's how. Like, I remember it was, we knew my wife and I were from Atlanta, and so we knew we wanted to get closer to home. And Seattle's very far. It was like very expensive. Just like we loved it, but it was just like we weren't gonna settle down there. And so I was just like starting to look. So I just literally applied, shot in the dark, knew nothing about soccer, knew no one in soccer, knew that I liked soccer. Didn't even know that I wanted to move to Chicago. but I was like, well, I might as well apply, like nothing to lose. Yeah, the rest is history. Then obviously been at soccer for a while, have had a couple of bosses who have left, and I've gotten very lucky just to kind of move up into their positions and whatnot. So, um, but yeah, I like wanted to get into soccer. I remember I actually had a conversation. So the guy who oversees stadium ops at Austin FC is a West Virginia grad,
Oh, cool.
a sport management grad. And so I didn't know him because he was a couple years ahead of us. But on I don't, maybe it was LinkedIn or something. I don't know. I figured out that this guy was a WVU sport management grad, like and I reached out to him and just sent him an email, and we actually talked when I was still in Seattle. And I was like, "Hey, how do you get an MLS?" And you know how it is when you have these conversations. He was
Yeah.
trying to be nice. But yeah, and then and because that was before Austin had like started, so I was like, I'd move to Austin, like I have family in Austin, like that'd be sweet. But I did, but like, he had probably everyone reaching out. But now it's funny because now we're like pretty good friends. Like we play in Austin all the time. I text him probably on every few days just about some work stuff, other stuff. So we're pretty friendly with each other now, which is crazy that it kind of all, I don't know, it all goes back to West Virginia.
Hey,
Um,
I've had conversations when I get my job at Amazon, the hiring manager went to Pitt.
hey,
And
whatever works.
I wore my West Virginia pin on my suit coat for my interview to mess with her. And as things progress, I told her after I was hired, I was like, honestly, being a West Virginia alumni, I didn't think you were going to hire me because we just don't like each other that
Yeah.
much. And keep going. We get to like Christmas time, we do Secret Santa. Guess who I get?
There you go.
Oh,
So I
love
had
it.
to order
Stuffed
Pitt
Mountaineer.
stuff. And it was
Probably ate
just
at your soul.
I had to order my tickets for the backyard brawl 2 years ago through Pitt. It ate at me. It was just not a fun scenario.
Crazy how that works though, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's wild, but yeah, no. So I do women's and men's now, and kind of just again like one of these, and then we ended up relocating to Atlanta.
Now
So
they're breaking ground on their new facility, correct?
we broke ground a week ago
Okay.
yesterday. Um, have some shovels in here, but none of them are easy to get to. Um, but yeah, no, we broke ground a week ago Monday. Yeah, it's exciting. Like, I mean, it's crazy, right? Like, the goal was always to get back to Atlanta. I didn't think that, like, ironically, I almost didn't take the job at soccer because it was in Chicago, and then they end up moving to Atlanta. So it's just wild.
Wow. Amazing
That's
how the world
awesome.
works.
So do you get to travel? Because I've seen your posts. You are
I travel quite a bit. So I oversee all of our like domestic games,
okay.
national team, of many things, but that's one of them. So when I started, I was all just operations logistics for national team games, and now I oversee special events, ticketing, a bunch of event related stuff. Um, so yeah, we don't have a home stadium, so we obviously just travel around, right? What I think is actually really cool is that we don't have a home stadium and that we get to take the team to all around the country, right? Like we get to touch all the different, most of the corners. If certain corners didn't have turf fields only, we would be there more often. But um, we get to touch all the corners of the country and kind of see everything. And so I like love it. Like, I mean, traveling is a little old. I'm probably on the road like 125, 140 days a year. But like I get to like, and mainly domestic, right? But I get to see like all of the US. Like I've been to so many cities, and like I have my favorites. I know the breweries, I know the restaurants, like I know the hotels I like to stay at, right? And so it is fun to kind of get to see that. I get to catch up with friends, and like, whenever I'm in Kansas City, I go hang out with Nick, right? Like it's these things that I get to do. And so yeah, I mean it's a lot of fun, right? Like it's yeah, I mean it's been like the most amazing job. Like I think for the first time I've like actually like not content, but like just like very, a job's a job, like all jobs, some parts of some part of every job will suck, and
Yeah.
some part of every job will be your favorite, and then most of the part of every job is like just the job, right? And so that's how it is wherever you go. So like but I enjoy this. It's a lot of fun. But the travel is fun, man. Like I like to find a brewery. Like I usually like one of my things, I just go find a brewery to get dinner at whatever city we go to. And it's cool to like see different stadiums and see different cities and communities, and like instead of just doing the same thing in, in Washington, it was Husky Stadium. I knew the place like the back of my hand.
Yep.
But it's cool to kind of see other things, right? See
Yeah.
like and like, like when we had USA Mexico and Cincinnati for the World Cup qualifier back in 2021 on November
Oh
16th.
yeah. Wasn't it snowing for that game too?
It was cold. It wasn't snowing.
Okay.
But it was like pinch me moment. It was like, holy shit, this is USA Mexico, right? In Cincinnati to qualify for Qatar. Um, there were a lot of those moments during qualifying, which was like just amazing. But it was just like I remember we got done with that game. It was just I was actually nervous before that game. I was like, what happens if we lose? Uh,
Uh,
and so it's just I don't know. It's just a treat, right? It's super cool to kind of get to do those types of things.
so far, what is your, you know, been with US Soccer for, like you said, 4 years, going on 5. What's your most memorable moment at this time?
Mm, most memorable moment. USA Mexico is obviously a good one. I'm trying to buy for time right now. We last was it last fall or 2 falls ago? There's just been like some crazy things that have happened. Like we had a tournament where it was February. I mean, COVID too was just nuts, right? Like getting people in and out of this country was like the most difficult thing in the world,
Oh
right? And
God.
COVID testing and like that all, was just it took years off my life. So being done with like things and getting teams out of the country was like, thank God they're on the plane going home. Like we can breathe again. I think that I mean, USA Mexico was the coolest, right? Like that was super cool. A couple of months later, we did a qualifier in Minnesota, and maybe this is the one you remember, Merritt, when it was negative 12 degrees outside. We were playing
Yes.
Spirits. Like that one was wild just because of all of the things that went into it. Like I mean, it was just that was nuts. Like we were every little thing you could think of to try to get ahead of the cold weather we were trying to do. All while contingency planning in case we had to move the game. So we were basically planning another game at the same time. And so like that was that like being done with that. Like I remember after that we went back to the hotel, and it's the only time I've ever just drank tequila out of a glass.
Proud of
Uh,
you.
and then all of us almost missed our flights the next day. Um, I got to go to Australia this year for the Women's World Cup, which was like just nuts.
That's gonna be cool.
I was there as part of our FIFA World Cup bid. And so like was, just hanging out with like FIFA people all day and had amazing seats and got to see like all the behind the scenes stuff of the World Cup. Like I was geeking out at we went into like the VAR room in the International Broadcast Center, like the coolest thing ever.
That's
Um,
cool.
it was incredible. Like I would have never gone to Australia. And so the fact that I got to experience that was just like what the hell, right? I mean, it was nuts. Like Sydney was beautiful, right? So it's like a lot of stuff. I don't know that there's like a single
Hmm.
memory, like when we get through last fall, we had 11, let's see here, we had 5, 4, 3. We had 12 games in 11 cities over about 10 or 11 weeks. And that was a lot. Like we had 5 in September, we had 4 in October, and we had 3 in November. And getting through that was just like an accomplishment, right? Like cheers to everyone, it was just like, holy cow. It was like you never stop, right? You're
Just
home for three
going.
days, you're leaving, you're on the road for 6 days, you're home for 3 days, it was constant. And so like that was a grind. So like getting through those moments are probably the best memories, right? But yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just cool. Like it's probably a good thing I can't find one thing, right? Like that probably
Yeah.
means
Oh
most
That
yeah, for sure.
and now World Cup's coming around in, geez, 2 years here. Are you involved with that?
not really. So sort
Okay.
of, but not really. So FIFA now runs. So go back to like 20, 2011 and 2015, basically local organizing committees would run the World Cup, right? So FIFA, whoever bid on the World Cup would then put together their LOC and they would run the World Cup themselves, and FIFA would kind of be watching and like, hey, it's similar to how like NCAA works. So when you host like championships and stuff. It was that way through France in 2019 with the women. Starting in Qatar, they set up basically like a FIFA entity in Qatar, and they ran the World Cup. So that happened in Qatar, it happened in Australia, and it's going to happen again in the US. So FIFA is essentially, there's full-time folks that are being hired and they're running the World Cup. I mean, we obviously want to, as US soccer, want to like capitalize on that moment. So I'm sure we'll have some stuff to do with it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like that's going to be so big for our sport, right? Like,
can you tell them to come to the East Coast? Because I really want to watch the US team, and they're just literally staying in LA and Washington.
Yeah, well, it's crazy, like the broadcast stuff, right? Like how like you basically have to optimize broadcast times. It'll be better than Australia, though. Like the Australia broadcast times are brutal.
That's true.
So I'm just excited to like, I mean, just like go see some games. Like, I mean, I can't explain it. I'd never been to a World Cup. It sounds like Mary, you have, but like when
I've been in the cities like when games are going on. Like
but that's the cool part.
It's
not the game. Like the games are fun, whatever. It's just
The
like
games are the games, yeah.
the games are cool, but like
seeing like all the different cultures like come to a city is like super neat. And so
when I
that was
was
the coolest part about Australia, other than just like Australia was badass, was just like it was like the energy around it, right? It was like a pinch me thing.
when I was in France and Spain, like France was playing Spain in one of the games, and I remember being in the hotel room, and I asked the people downstairs, I'm like, "Are you guys going to be able to watch the game?" No, we don't have a TV. We're not allowed to leave. Like we have to stay here, so we'll be able to listen to it. I remember France scoring, and I'm sprinting down 5 flights of stairs to yell and jump up and down and say France scored, France scored, run back up and watch cars drive by, people like standing on the roofs with French flags, like flailing them around.
Crazy, man.
I can't
You don't
wait
realize how big it is in other places. Like,
until you
I think
go.
that's what's going to be cool about 26 is like, I think it's just going to blow up. Like, I think it's going to get so big here. Like,
Yeah, I can only imagine because I know the final is gonna be at MetLife Stadium, and I can only imagine.
Kevin, you can't work that. We're
Nuts.
going to that game.
Who knows? I may not even be working there anymore by the time we get to that point. But yeah, I mean, definitely, it's gonna be crazy. I can't even imagine. It's gonna be nuts. Merritt, you're saying something. One of your stories.
I went to a USA Mexico game when I lived in Arizona. That was ridiculous, and I can't wait for that to be 20 times worse. Granted, though, USA Mexico games are scary as all hell to be a fan in, because I had my buddy grab me as a beer bottle went flying by my head. Yeah.
when was this? When
Had to have been 2013, 2014.
probably like a Gold Cup or something.
Yeah.
April
So
2nd. It was a
we
2-2 final score.
yeah,
probably.
I was behind the US. I was actually in the whole USA section, like the fanatics basically for USA soccer, the whole time. And we're on both sides. It's just straight Mexican fans. And I don't care. I'm just having fun, like yelling and watching a great game. And they're throwing beer bottles.
Yeah.
Like but during the game, you hate each other. Afterwards, we're out in the parking lot playing soccer with them, kicking the ball around.
One of the coolest things, we had a game in Cincinnati, Ohio, right? And that's important because of what I'm about to tell you, against Morocco. And we were like, we're not gonna have there are gonna be no Morocco fans here. Like half the stadium was Moroccan fans. But
That's
the coolest
cool.
thing is there were so many, and I ended up talking to a bunch of them. There were so many like dual fans, right? So you'd have a Morocco jersey on, but you'd have a US flag, or you'd have a US jersey on with a Morocco flag or a Morocco scarf or something like that.
That's really cool.
And it was super cool. And it was like the first moment for me where I was like, that's what's cool about the US. Is we have so many cultures and everyone can be fans of both in a weird way that's acceptable. And it was cool. Like, I mean, it was nuts. Like Morocco scored, place goes crazy. US scores, place goes crazy because everyone was like just happy to be there. It was super neat. In Cincinnati, Ohio.
Most
Yeah,
random place in the country. Yeah.
crazy.
But that's what it'll be like in a couple of years. I know I plan on going to a couple of games for sure. Mainly on the East Coast. I probably won't go to the West Coast games because just that would be too much money.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's just seeing games though are gonna be cool, right?
Yeah.
Like Panama
Yeah.
playing insert Luxembourg. I mean, insert random team, right? Like it's gonna be cool.
Croatia, like
Yeah, yeah, it's just gonna be fun.
Denmark. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be cool. Well, I think this is the best question that we get to ask is what's your favorite doc story? Because we have to ask every sport
Does
management
he
major.
listen? Does he listen to this?
Um, he says he does, but I don't know if
He
he
says
really
he
does.
does, and we had him on too. We
So
had him
you
I
can
on.
say
I
whatever you
I, I
want.
watched that or I listened to that episode. So two things I'll say. And one thing I wanted to say earlier. So I've been talking and I still stay in touch with Dr. Bravo quite a bit. I'm like talk to his class once or twice a year, like just love the guy. I think he's awesome.
We were
And
trying to get lunch with him one of the last times we were in Morgantown. We just never could coordinate.
Yeah, his son
he
had a.
I think everyone didn't like I think he's a very like he's super smart, obviously. I think
Oh,
like it, the classes he taught, you gotta really be like geeky into this shit. But like I was and I loved it and it was great. It's like I don't know. I just wanted it was funny. I was talking to one of his classes. No students turn on their cameras. It's crazy to me. And it's like, guys, I'm I'm happy to talk with any West Virginia alum. If you send me an email, I'll talk to you, right?
yep.
Like I'll give you 30 minutes. But turn your camera. It was so annoying.
We
Uh,
were. Did you get to do docs class at all?
no, I never did docs.
We got to do one with docs class, and doc made it mandatory that they had to be on camera.
Yeah, I don't know. It just annoyed me. But anyways, doc story. I don't know that I tried not to have many of these. I feel like at one point, and you guys probably could keep me honest here, he gave us an assignment and all of us just decided like we're not doing it.
Yeah.
It was
I mean, that's signature doc.
yeah, like and we were just
No,
like,
but I remember. I
like this
think.
is ridiculous. I remember the classroom. It was the one right where you walk up the stairs, right on the right.
Yeah, it was the
Yes.
first classroom on the right, and
And that was like, I think the class where like we actually like all the sport management majors became friends. Like because we all I don't know. I just remember like the first like semester, no one was like super close. And then we got to the second, like late in the first semester, early second semester of that junior year, and everyone like we're all going to the sports page every Friday. And I think
yeah,
like that was like for me when things like really got it was like cool. It was fun. It was like we all were friends, like not friends, and we're not like texting all the time, but like we're all hanging out, and I don't know. I love that. But I feel like there was a assignment in there where we just decided we weren't going to do it. He tried to get everyone to turn it in or something,
I
and
think I
we were all
remember.
just like, no, we didn't do it. And then that was around the time when remember when everyone left on like really bad reviews?
Oh yeah, yes,
He like
because I remember this whole thing where it was what I don't remember what the assignment was, but I do remember all of us basically saying, "Doc, we're not doing this. This is
this is
stupid."
ridiculous. Like it's
Like
not, we don't even know what we don't really know what the assignment is. This is
because he made it up on the spot,
yeah.
like every other assignment that he would give us.
I
But
think
then,
I remember it was one of the ones where he sent us an email about a 10-page paper being done. He sent it right after we had a sport management club meeting in that same room. And we
oh my
all came in and
god,
he was trying to give us the hand in the paper. We're like, we didn't do it.
Yeah.
We all didn't do it because we were just like, because we got the email at like 9:59, which like an hour ago we were literally just with him, like picking like whoever's gonna be the new sport management president and
You know
all
what
that
though?
stuff.
And maybe this is like a blessing in disguise. Like I can't think of one thing that's maybe not entirely true, but like 75% of the stuff we learned in school, like the subject matters, like what would we get out of writing a paper, didn't
Nothing.
was meaningless.
yeah,
I do think being put under that scenario of like being asked to do things that were ridiculous and all of us having to like figure out like, okay, I don't think we should do this. Or sometimes we figured it out. It's not like we didn't do any work in that class. Like sometimes we just had to like
Yeah.
figure out what the hell he wanted and work together with people who some people weren't like there to do work. And sometimes we just had to figure it out. And I think that's where the value of it was, right? Like
Yeah.
there were moments and we all became, you know, closer. Like I remember making those study guides and like
Oh yeah.
it was, you know, like the John Terry study guide. And it got
I,
to the point where I just sent it to everyone. I was like,
I
whatever, we're all
remember all of us
together. Like, I'm not trying to do better than everyone. Let's just get through it.
at the end of the year, all of us went out. I just the random picture pops up on Facebook every now and then. It's you, me, Steve, and Jane. And I think gosh, I can't remember. There was a couple other people in the picture, and all at one of the bars in Morgantown, just like dressed to the nines for college students, drunk off our asses.
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
was a sport management party because I get tagged in it also. There's a bunch of us that we rented out some whatever the little hole in the wall bar that was across from Bent Willie's and
Oh yeah.
something like that. Because I just remember I have a photo because I know Jane is in that photo. I'm in a pink shirt, and I remember we're all there, and that was like a big like it was like one of like the last parties that we had because we all were like I remember we're all like, damn, how come we haven't done like more of this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I mean, it's cool though. Like, I still see people, like I was mentioning earlier, like, obviously, we're talking now. Like, I still see, like, I saw Todd. Do you remember Todd Krimmel?
Yeah.
Like,
Yo, Todd.
I saw him in London a few months ago, just like
Most
random.
random spot.
Yeah. And so it's cool though, because you still get to, you know, obviously have those, yeah, have those interactions. I mean, it was just like a very lovely time, right? Like if you think about it and look back, like what we got to experience, like, I mean, it was like, I mean, I would go back and do things differently for sure. I would take more advantage of like, imagine if we were all of our gang was friends from day one, right? Like how much more fun that would have been.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
you
Yeah.
savor the moments though, right? Like I wouldn't change a thing. Like it was just like these crazy and like when I started school, like I was very focused on school. Like I didn't like I had like a couple of my roommates, like you know, but I didn't have like a ton of friends. I didn't really have a ton of friends until it was the DA and the sport management group, kind of all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I senior year was just awesome. Like I remember having the best time senior year. It was because we were all kind of friends at that point, right? Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
it was you know, you go get your $3 Long Island iced teas and $2 domestic drafts at Sports Page every Friday night. And it
Hey.
was time.
John, there's still a photo that pops up on my time hop like every year of when we were at Bent Willie's. It's like me, you, and Mike Bradford all in like a photo. And I always think about like, man, what a time to be alive if we could just do that on a Friday night and
Yeah.
like just enjoy life. And like I think I went with you on that same page, like, you know, sure we do things differently, but like, those are just the best times of our lives. Like just all being in that struggle, trying to like
And the
Figure
make
it
it
out, you
and
and the
know?
figure it
best
all
part
out.
is like we all have, I think every single one of us that has taken a doc class, we may have not learned a bunch about sports or about anything that he was trying to tell us, but he out of all the professors we had prepared us the best for out of the real world.
Yeah, like I mean,
Truly.
Yeah.
Doc would like when you have to deal with bullshit. Like that's what he taught us how to do.
Yeah.
I still deal with his bullshit. He'll text me every now and then asking random stuff.
He has your phone number. That's not good.
I've had Doc's phone number since like day one.
Really.
Oh yeah. Like he loved me for some god awful reason. I don't know why.
I'm trying to find the name of that bar across from Bent Willie's. I can't find it. It's currently called Happy's Pub and Stuff, which is not the name of
Definitely not. It
no,
was
That's
something that had to
def
do it was
chicken
something
bone.
that had to do with like a shark. Was it Mario's fishbowl?
No, it's chicken bone.
no
Chicken
ch
bone.
chicken bone. Because you
It's
could bring
100% chicken bones.
it
They were
was you
fried.
brought was it every like Wednesday or Thursday you could bring anything but a mug. So you could bring like a solo cup or whatever in and you get beer out of that or something like that. I feel like that's what they did something like that.
Maybe we're thinking of the wrong. I don't think that was chicken.
Yeah,
Bones.
I don't. That definitely wasn't Chicken Bones. That was another place, but I just remember that place being super fancy. Mary, what is this last question you have here?
I can't remember if John Terry went to Indy 2012 because I've heard so many different people went to this and it was only like 5 people.
No, I'm one of that 5 people. It was
Okay.
What is
yes.
Indy 2012?
So
It was a shit
there
show
was
apparently.
it
Oh, is
was
this the NFL Combine?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, no, I did not.
God, that was so shout out to us, the 5 of us that went, because we were the ones that gatekeeped open Merritt's class to have a hell of a time in Indy. Because we were like we were the West Virginia showing. It was me, uh James, it was Sandy, it was Steve Weingarten, and Eric Williamson. We, the 5 of us, shacked up in one room, and we were Dovey's representation at the Sport Management Worldwide Combine, which is cool. We got to meet Adam Schefter, which is cool because he's always there. But that was quite a time.
He's a really short dude.
Yeah, him and I are like
Sounds
the same height.
miserable, actually.
No,
Like,
it was miserable. Like the drive, it was just I slept the whole entire ride because I was just like I'm so done with this, and like it was like because it's one of those places you're trying to interact, you're trying to meet. Like by the time you get done with all that, you're like your social like battery is like kind of like fried, and I just remember when we drove back, I remember I just want to get to my car. When we got back to my car at the Coliseum, I just drove home.
did you guys go? Maybe this was the same year. I did go on this trip when we went to St. John's
Oh
University.
my God.
Yes,
So
legendary.
I love that trip.
I remember I was up at the Big East men's basketball tournament the day before. It was I think we West Virginia played UConn on Wednesday.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I believe we were leaving to go to St. John's like super late on Thursday night. It was like 11 o'clock or something. We were leaving and driving through the night. And West Virginia lost to UConn. So I had to drive. I was there with the DA. Drove back from New York on
Oh
Thursday morning.
God.
We got back at like 5 o'clock. I went home to my like crappy college house, threw some clothes in a bag, and then walked up to the law school. Because I think the buses left from the law school parking lot.
Yeah,
Which
it
was
left from the law school parking lot.
And I walked up there, which is like not whatever. I was like tired. I've just basically been in the car for 2 days. Um, walked up there, got on the bus, and then we got on a bus and drove back to New York City. And I remember being like, "Oh my God, this is just I can't remember anything about the bus. I can't remember. I was
We all
trying.
slept on it.
It
Yeah,
was just awful. I just remember being awful. I remember we showed up, we stopped at like the campus, like in like outside of Queens or wherever the St.
yeah, we're
John's.
at St. John's.
Yeah.
We walked
Then
through the campus.
we saw the arena, we saw kind of, and then we drove. I think this thing was happening like somewhere else. I don't know. And
No,
then
it
we sat
happened at St. John's.
but it was like, okay, you're right, you're right. And then we listened to that NBA guy talk. I still follow him on Twitter. I can't remember his name.
Alan Hahn,
Alan Hahn.
Yep.
my
And
guy.
we were there for what, like 4 or 5 hours. It was
Yep.
Friday. We were there for 4 or 5 hours. We stayed at that hotel out in near
Jamaica
the Mets
Queens.
Stadium, right? And I remember I can't was Nick Arthur. I can't remember who I stayed in a room with, but I remember like drinking vodka with someone, and then I went to bed. Everyone else went out. I was like, I'm going to sleep. Fuck this.
That was the night Kevin almost had to pay for dances.
And oh gosh. And then the next morning we woke up and we went to
MetLife.
that was actually cool. That part was cool.
That was the
That
coolest
was
part
neat.
was MetLife.
Yeah, that was actually probably made the trip worth it. And then remember we went down to like the like Battery Park and stuff, and we were like zipping around on the subway.
Yeah,
and
we
went
got
down.
didn't we we all went to Times Square. Remember that?
Yeah.
Because like a bunch of us went and got pizza and everything, and it was like, oh, we have to take the subway back to wherever we
Back
were.
to Queens or whatever. And then we ended up getting on the bus. It was
Yeah.
Did we do an overnight bus on Saturday?
Yeah,
We
we
did. So
took
we
the
did a
bus.
second
We took
overnight
the
bus.
bus Saturday night. I remember that because I what time was it? I think we went back at like 2 a.m.
Yeah, we
Like,
got back to Morgantown super late because I remember vividly. So we weren't just supposed to be hanging out randomly in Times Square. We were supposed to take a ferry to Long Island to go see the Islanders play
but
because
then
we
we were
had a
supposed to do
W
this.
Connect that that got us like free tickets, but then Doc didn't want to go anymore. And then we all left. And I remember because like that person like got in trouble because she reserved like a whole bunch of like seats for us and we didn't even go.
And
I
then we
didn't
tried to
know
go.
that.
We tried to go to the Statue of Liberty because Doc got into the dance battle.
Yes,
I
the
have a
dance
video
battle.
of
I
Where the
that.
remember the
guy
dance
jumped
battle.
over him. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
What a time. I forgot
Yeah.
about that. And then I
Yeah.
remember getting back. Yeah, we got back at a weird hour. And then it was like, what the hell was that trip?
Yeah. That was a very weird trip, but
Because I remember because it was supposed to be a combo trip of us, St. John's, and Drexel. And then at the 11th hour, Drexel said, "Yeah, we're not coming anymore." So it ended just being us because everybody in St. John's was like in their class. So it was literally a conference of just us with like maybe some random, like a couple of St. John students that were like just there because like the professor was like like in charge of it. And like that was it. But like it was us on one entire side and a bunch of randoms.
I forgot about the MetLife piece of that. I like the
that
MetLife thing was cool because we got a good tour of MetLife.
that was cool just to like walk around and be like,
And it was with like the architect or
yeah, it
some.
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
architect that designed it.
Yeah.
It's really funny. So that's kind of came full circle where like I did that tour and then I ended up like ended up
Being
working
there
there
all
for
the
so many
time.
years. And then also like they do the tour and I remember like I knew more about the building than the guy giving me the tour. And he because I was like, yeah, there was like if you remember, they like he gave us the fact that like it took like 60 plus different designs to determine what it would look like because if the Jets or Giants didn't like one, then they had to completely start over.
Right.
And then I remember I said that during the tour, and then the guy was like, "Oh yeah, well, whatever." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I got that from the architect. I don't know who you are."
Got it
But
from the architect. They got receipts.
I
yeah,
also like the
Uh,
fact when they told us how they did all the seats. So if it was an empty stadium, it still looked like it was full because of the color coordinating. And he goes, yeah, and we screwed up halfway through the upper bowl and we had to take all the seats out and do it all over again. I'm like, what? Fuck.
That's wild. What a time. What a time. Good times, man. Good times.
right? Amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's the questions I had. Kevin, do you have anything?
No, I think I gave a lot of John Terry all of like, my random questions. No, I do have a question. Do you still get like random receipts from like soccer John Terry fans? Because I remember that was a big thing during the time when
Not as
Twitter was
much.
alive.
Although, so John Terry, after he was at Chelsea, he then started playing for Aston Villa, which is my team.
Yeah.
And then he became a coach of Aston Villa. Uh,
Okay.
so my connection with John Terry is everlasting. But no, I don't get really the death threats, not the tweets, the death threats
The
anymore.
death threats anymore?
But
Oh
I
my
do. It is a
God.
great icebreaker in the soccer world. Like it's amazing. It's like the best icebreaker. So
Love it.
no, hey guys, I appreciate it. This was fun. It was good to see you guys.
Good to see you too. Happy to have you
I'm
on.
glad you guys are doing well, and I hope you Merritt, like please, like you're gonna wake up at on Saturday. You're
No,
gonna wake up at 7 a.m. You turn on NBC, my man, or ESPN Plus, and you find yourself a
I can
soccer.
watch Hulu has it, so I can just toss it on Hulu.
Dude, watch
Perfect.
soccer. That's all I'm saying. And Kevin, maybe start with Welcome to Wrexham or Sunderland.
Yeah.
Can I
I
ask
got
one question before we get off here? It's
yeah.
Yeah.
we want to get to it. Do you guys watch Formula One? Have you guys like
I
been
have watched the show. It is so I've never watched an actual race,
okay?
but watching the documentary series on Netflix, the past 5, 6 seasons, I want to go to Monaco
Monaco.
and just be a part of it because it looks unreal.
Okay. What about you, Kevin?
So I'm not gonna lie. I have like PTSD with like auto sports because my second job after I worked at Rutgers, I did market research for for a company, and one of my assignments
Started with a
was
K. Started with a K. I remember that company.
Kantar Media.
Antar Media.
Yes, I had to do Formula One as assignments. So my job was to monitor the sponsorships during events. So I would have to keep track of the sponsorships on the walls and like specific sponsorships on certain vehicles. And then I would have to listen to like the entire event for like verbal cues of like sponsors being listed. And so ever since then, after I got out of that job, I just took a break from all sorts of vehicle sports because it was just bringing me back like, okay, all I'm doing is just watching the sponsor on the
So
screen.
that's funny. That's funny you say that
Mm-hmm.
because I remember we did. I can't remember junior or senior year we did, or maybe it was grad school. I can't remember, but we did a project for Cantor Media or whatever,
Yeah.
and it was involving the popularity of sports in South America or Brazil, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And women's volleyball was up there, and motorsports was up there, and I was in soccer. I was like, what the motorsports? Like, what is this? Like, what? Why would anyone watch this garbage? Um, but
That's
same way. Like, I started watching the show Merit, the one of the best sports documentaries I think ever created.
yeah.
Um,
I gotta check that one out too.
it's good. It's incredible. That's
It's
like after COVID was the first 3 seasons of that.
it's literally just called Formula One on Netflix, Kevin. It's
It's
Amazing.
great. And but now I like watch the races. My wife's super into it. Like we wake up on Sunday mornings and we watch qualifying and we watch the races on Sunday and whatever. Love it. I just didn't know if you guys had caught on the craze. So
I want to watch it. I need to because I want to actually understand it even more.
you know what,
Like,
dude? Another great show in the morning on the weekends because they're always at like 9, 7, 8, 9 a.m. I'm just giving you activities to help entertain your
Father
kids
son
look at
activities.
this. I love
in
it.
the morning.
Incredible.
This kid's going to be the most well-rounded sports fan ever.
I'm telling you, man, like it's
Well,
soccer, you know it's gonna last 2 hours. Formula One, you know it's gonna last 2 hours because it's time limited. So, anyways, but no, I appreciate you guys having me. I hope your viewership doesn't completely plummet, or your listenership doesn't completely plummet from this. But if
No.
anything, I enjoyed it,
If
and
it
it really.
hasn't plummeted with after my friend Cyrus, then you know, we're gonna keep rocking and rolling until these wheels fall off.
But it was
So
no, it was excellent though. I hope you guys are doing well and all the best with the podcast and everything else in life, and potentially maybe we don't wait 10 years to catch up again. So.
no,
yeah,
we
I
need to
agree.
and we definitely got to have you on here again with all the JT sports knowledge. It's always insightful, good sir. Shall I outro us out real quick, Merritt?
Yes, you can, sir.
All right, so outro time. So number one, we got to give our flowers to our guest, the John Terry. John, we appreciate you for coming on. If there's any socials that our followers could follow you on, you could go ahead and share those real quick.
There's not really anything worthy of it. The John Terry on Twitter
All right, well, the John Terry, make
is
sure
the
you
famous
follow
one.
him. There you
No
go.
death threats, though. No death threats.
Please, no death threats.
Yeah, we
So
don't do death
yes,
threats here.
if you want to watch us, you can watch us at our YouTube page at the Manly Musings Podcast. Feel free to listen to us on all streaming platforms. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Spotify. I heard Google Play is going away and that Amazon Play is the wave. So listen to us on there too. If you want to follow us on the Instagram, you have Merit at Merit_P, me at KQuava624. Follow the podcast Instagram at the Manly Musings Pod, along with the TikTok, the Manly Musings Pod as well.
You
Same
left out
place.
the most important part here.
What did I miss? What
You
did I
gotta
miss?
tell the people to leave you a review.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
reviews are the most important part.
You know, and if anybody could leave us a review, a comment, give us
That's
5
not named
stars.
Cyrus.
We need more reviews. I think the last review I got was from our dear friend Ronald, who was a guest on here. I need more reviews, guys. If we can give us some more reviews, that'd be amazing. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Take care. Spike your hair. Peace, y'all.